Hello everyone and welcome to the Kiki London YouTube channel. My name's Amanda and in today's video we are going to be starting off nail art November. Now if you haven't already seen, or if it's not live on the website just yet, it will be very soon, but Kiki London are going to be running a nail art November sale where there is up to 20% off all your favorite nail art supplies. So I will, as always, leave the Kiki London website linked in the description box below, as it's a perfect chance to check out. Now, we're going to jump in straight into this design. I just wanted to quickly show you guys the colors that we're going to be using. I'm going to be using Tea Rose as my base shade, and then I selected these three colors, which are not three shades that I've put together before, and I do feel as though they're quite contrasting, but I really loved how well they looked together for a autumn look. So I'm going to start off by applying Tea Rose as my base shade. Now of course you would do all of your prep and your base coat before you come in and apply your gel polish color if you was working on yourself or a client, but because we're working on display tips, I'm coming straight in with my two coats of Tea Rose and curing each of these for 30 seconds. Tea Rose is a beautiful shade for autumn. It's such a cute, cozy one. It's got lots of warm tones to it. However, if you wanted to use a pink or maybe even something like vintage white or vanilla latte, they could work really well in this design as well. Now that we've got our base coats down, I have done this on all four of the tips, by the way. I just thought I would show you guys one so that the video wasn't too repetitive. I'm then going to take my Kiki London nail art palette and start popping down the colors onto this so that we can use them throughout the set. And this is where I really was pleased with how well these three colors work together, because I wasn't 100% sure before. And then of course throughout this design we are going to be using the stripe liner brush. The stripe liner brush will also be in the nail art sale, I believe, so it's a perfect time to grab it if you haven't already. It's one of my absolute favorite brushes from the Kiki London range. So for this design I'm going to start off by doing a sweep of all three colors going across the nail. Now usually when I do this look or this design, I do it on an almond or a stiletto shape nail, so it was a little different doing it on this coffin shape, but I do quite liked how it looked. I just didn't curve off the swoosh as much as I normally would when I was doing it on an almond nail. Now I am going to flash cure that color for 10 seconds, and then whilst that's flash curing I'm going to come in and clean my brush with an alcohol wipe, just to make sure we fully remove that previous color before we come in and add our second color, as we don't want to start mixing the shades together. So just give it a good wipe on an alcohol pad. These are also available on the Kiki London website. If you don't have those, you can also use a little bit of acetone, but acetone can dry out your brushes, so you want to be careful regularly using that on the brush. Then I'm gonna go in and do the same with Harvest Festival, being really careful not to overlap it too much over the previous color. You kind of want to push it right up against, but you don't necessarily want to overlap them too much, as then you can sometimes see the ridge, or you'll get a little bit of shadowing of the other color coming through underneath, especially if that color is darker than the next one that you're going in with. Now I have flash cured these as I've been applying them, but now we're going to pop them in for a full 30 seconds. And then I really wanted to add some crystals into this design. I don't often do too many crystal looks, but I thought this was the perfect time. We're going into sparkly season and crystals are perfect for that. So I have the Topaz Ray Crystals here, and then I've also got a few caviar beads, and we're going to be applying these using the No Wipe rubber top coat. Also, of course, you're going to need your dotting / gem tool to help get these crystals in place. I really love having both ends on this tool, because you can use the dotting tool to help nudge everything around where you want it to go, and then of course the gem end is great for picking up your gems. So I'm going to come in and apply the No Wipe top coat to the entire nail, and then we're just going to be applying our crystals down at the cuticle, one side of the cuticle area. I kind of wanted like a chunky swoosh coming up the nail. So what you want to do is apply a even coat of your No Wipe rubber top coat, leave this wet, and then pop your crystals down into that uncured top coat. And then when you pop it into cure, that's going to set all your crystals in place, and I find this holds them really well. Now Now, I find this technique a lot easier than applying them with glue, simply because you've got plenty of time to move those crystals around. Of course, you can still do this look with glue, but I find the downside is now glue dries very quickly. So if you're not 100% happy where you've placed a crystal down, it's really hard to move it. And then if you are doing more intricate designs with your crystals, it's so much easier applying them into your rubber top coat, as you can just freely move them around as much as possible, really nudge them close together and things like that. And then it's great as well with the caviar beads, because you can press them down into that top coat and they're not going to be going anywhere. This technique only really works with the rubber top coat. I don't find it works well with any of the other top coats, because they're not thick enough for the crystals to sink down into and really hold them in place. You could do it with the crystal top coat, but I just, if anything, I would highly recommend doing it with the rubber top coat. So again, this was a really simple crystal look, just swooshing up using a mix of the different sizes that come in the pack. These do come separated, so the sizes of the crystals do come separated, but I've mixed them all together as I tend to use them mixed, so I found that easier. And then once I was happy of how they're all placed, I popped that into cure for 60 seconds, and then like I said, that's going to set everything in place, and then we're ready to move on to the second nail. So I had this abstract look in mind for this nail. I was looking around at abstract prints on Pinterest, and this one wasn't actually on a nail, it was just like a illustrated design, and I really liked how it looked, and it was kind of what gave me the inspiration to use these particular colors as well. But then when I did it on the nail, I wasn't 100% sure whether I liked it or not, so this now I was a bit 50-50 on. Again, when I'm applying these colors, I'm flash curing each color for 10 seconds, so that way if I make a mistake, I can wipe off that mistake without wiping off the previous color. And then also it just helps you when you're moving your hand around on the nail and things like that, you're not going to have to worry about smudging anything. So like I was saying, I wasn't 100% on this design, and I do find that if I ever do a set that has lots of nail art, or if I'm playing around and doing lots of nail art designs, there will always be one nail that I'm not 100% sure on, or one nail that I don't really like, and then there's usually always a nail that I would say, oh, I'd happily wear this one on every nail, and then there's one that I absolutely love. So it's really funny, as the first nail we just did, that is actually the nail that I would happily wear a full set of those. I think it would look really pretty, but maybe I would only have the crystals on 1 or 2 nails. So for example, have the slashes or swooshes of color coming across the nail on all 5 nails, but then just on the ring finger having those crystals, so that particular nail really pops. Or you could even do the ring finger and the thumb, as I find that looks quite nice as well. Then this nail was the one that, like I said, I weren't 100% sure on, and the next nail is the one that I really loved how it turned out. But anyway, moving back onto this design, we've just painted on 3 different shapes. So we painted on one shape with the date night, and then I followed that shape in a slightly thicker line than the chocolate melt with Harvest Festival. So our orange line is following the shape of the first shape, but just a line, but slightly thicker than the line that I had with chocolate melt, and that was just how it looked in the image. I then rubber top coated this just so I had a super smooth surface to come over the top and paint on the leaves using the Kiki London gold metallic nail art paint. Now the image that I see on Pinterest, I wish I'd saved it so I could show you guys, that had lots of individual leaves, and I wasn't sure how that would look on the nail, so I went for a stem with a few leaves attached. But I'm basically using the gold gel paint to paint this on, and this is so easy to paint with. It has a super thin consistency, and then it's really pigmented as well. So if you're starting out with any kind of hand painted nail art, I would recommend trying this, because it is a little bit easier to paint with than your gel polish is, due to it having that thinner consistency and how highly pigmented it is as well. Like here you can see when we're painting over the Harvest Festival and the date night, you can't see that color coming through the gold gel paint. So I start off, I'm just painting on some simple leaves, and then once I'm happy with that, I loved how it swooshed across all 3 colors, because I wasn't 100% sure on that abstract look, so it kind of just made the abstract design the background. I then decided I would matte top coat this nail, and then I decided I actually wanted the leaves to be glossy. Now I do love a matte and glossy combination, so we're going to come in and matte top coat the entire nail, keeping everything thin, by the way, when you are doing these nail art designs. just so that you don't end up with a too bulky nail. So this is what the nail looked like matte, and I do like the gold gel paint when it has that matte effect to it, because it kind of just gives it a really pretty, you still kind of see that metallic effect, but it gives it a bit of a satin finish, which I do really love. But on this particular design, the whole nail being matte, I felt as though it made it look too flat. So I decided to come in with the crystal top coat and just top coat over the leaves again. So then these are going to be glossy. Now I have done this technique in videos before, but usually I would use the rubber top coat, and then that gives the design a bit of an embossed 3D effect. But I didn't actually want that for this look, because I wanted everything on this nail to still look quite soft. So I went in with the crystal top coat using the stripe liner brush. It was really easy to just top coat over the leaves. And then we simply popped that top coat in to cure, and this was the finished look. So on to the third design, we've got our base of tea rose, and then we're going to come in with our blooming gel. Now I absolutely love using blooming gel. It is one of my favorite nail art products. So I'm going to come in and apply a thin coat of this to the entire nail. And when I'm using quite a variety of colors, I love doing something with a marble with them. So on this design, because I've already got my colors on my palette, I'm going to do my marble a little differently. So I'm going to take my detail brush and pick up Date Night to begin with, and just dot a medium-sized dot down of that color, give my brush a quick clean, and then go in and dot on Harvest Festival. I really loved how these two colors lit together, and I knew it would just make a beautiful marble. We're then going to add on Chocolate Melt. And then I decided to come in and add a little bit of that gold gel paint. It was down on my palette, so I thought I might as well. I don't feel as though I've used this in a marble too much, so it was fun to add in. And then what I'm going to do is, you can see those colors are already marbling, and it creates such a beautiful effect. But I'm then going to take the dotting tool end and pull through those colors. But I put my tool down slightly away from the gold and then pulled through it to get that effect where you're going to separate the colour from the base colour underneath. And then what I did is I swooped one half, so I took that gold, swooped it down to Date Night roughly halfway through those colours, and then back up again, and then switched and did the same to the other side, just so it wasn't fully marbling all those colours together, and it gives this gradient effect off. So it goes from the gold into Harvest Festival, into Date Night, and then into Chocolate Melt, and the same on the other end. And I just thought it looked really, really dreamy. I really loved how it turned out. So I then popped that in to cure for 60 seconds, and then I just thought this would be beautiful with another crystal swoosh coming onto the nail, but this time going across the nail. So I'm going to come in and apply my no wipe rubber top coat. This is going to top coat the design, and then we're going to apply our crystals into that. And then this time I took quite a few of the larger size crystals, and then I placed them down in the center, and then I'm just winging it from this end out, just creating a crystal swoosh. Now the crystal swooshes are great if you are a beginner with crystals, or you don't really know what to do when it comes to placement, because they don't have to look perfect, and especially where it's especially easy where the Kiki crystals come in, I think it's 5 different sizes. So when you buy the pack, it goes from small to large, because when you're doing a crystal swoosh, if you've got a mixed amount of sizes available, it makes that swoosh look really pretty, rather than you having to think about what sizes to use. So I end up going in and probably using all the sizes that are available. I just keep picking up, I'm looking at the design and thinking, right, let's put a medium one here, let's put a really small one there, just to get this wavy effect growing off the nail. And then I always like to add in a few caviar beads here and there as well, anywhere there's a gap that's a little bit too tiny to stick one of the crystals in, or just because it separates the crystals a little bit and gives a more jeweled effect to it, I find. And then I love that you can just use your dotting tool to nudge everything around, push that swoosh where you're wanting it to go. And then as I get towards the edge of the nail, I'm just coming around a little bit so it doesn't come off the nail exactly as a sharp straight stop. It just blends upwards, and I really loved how these Topaz Ray crystals looked against those colors we've got in the background for the marble. So just finishing this off with a few little ones on the edges. I don't like to put the larger crystals too close to the edge of the nail. And then once I was happy with that, I popped that in to fully cure for 60 seconds, and this is the finished result. Really loved this one. Do let me know in the comments below what your favorite nail was, as always. So on to the fourth nail, I'm going to come in, we've got our tea rose base, and I'm going to come in and use one of my other favorite brushes, which is the French brush. This brush makes French so easy, especially when you're working on long nails. I find as well it works brilliant too for short nails, but I always find French a little bit daunting on longer nails, and this makes it a lot easier. So I load up my brush with a generous amount of gel paint in this instance, and then I'm holding it flat against that nail, working out how far down I want my French to go, and then simply pull up, flip the brush over, do the same on the other side of the nail, and then using the longer end of the brush, this is great for pulling the sides of your French down if you want a more deep C curved look to your French, and then just coming in and using the angle of the brush to neaten up the shape of that smile line. Now, because we're doing this with the gold metallic paint, I'm trying to thin it out and keep it nice and thin so I can come in and do a second coat of this. Now, it is very highly pigmented when you're working with it for nail art, but I find if you're painting on a large area like this or doing a full coat with it, it's actually a little bit better to paint it on nice and thin. This way you minimize seeing any brush strokes in the metallic effect, and then because you've applied it nice and thin, you can come in and do a very simple second coat. It's really easy to do your second coat on a French because you've already got the guide and the lines down on that first coat. So we did that, I've cured that, and then I wanted to add in some water decals. So I flicked through the ones I had available. I wanted to find some colors that would work with the date night and the harvest festival. So I picked these two, and I have to say it is so much easier cutting out the water decals with the K&S scissors. They are so thin that you can get really close to the image. If you've watched any previous videos I've done with the Kiki London water decals, you would see that I used my stalk scissors, and the ends of them, they are thin, but they're nowhere near as thin as these scissors. These scissors just make it so much easier. I didn't have to go back in and faff about with the image. I could just straight away cut it as close to that image as possible. And the reason you want to cut the image out as close as possible is you don't want to have too much excess of the clear sheet once you've removed your white paper. So the closer to the image you can cut out, the better. Now, I've applied my decals today using the stamping method. So I've placed them face down onto a clear stamper, loaded the back of that paper up with some water, waited around 10-20 seconds, and then peeled off the backing paper. And then you can simply press your water decal down where it needs to go on the nail. And then I'm going to use the Kiki London silicone tool a bit like a squeegee and squeegee out excess water, and then also help push out any of the excess creases in the nail. Now, I was a bit confused at first, and I was thinking, why am I having trouble getting these to stick down? Because I never normally do. And then I realized it was because when I was doing my French, before I popped the second coat in to cure, I knocked it and smudged it. So I had to clean it up with some alcohol. So that meant I ended up wiping over the tea rose part of the nail with some alcohol. So there was no tacky inhibition layer left behind. And when you're applying the decals with the stamping method, it's a lot easier if you've still got that tacky layer that's left behind after curing your gel polish, because it just grabs onto the decal, holds it in place, and it makes it a lot easier for getting out your creases as well. So these didn't go on as easy as they normally go on for me, simply because I had wiped over the nail. So what I'm doing to try and fix that is I'm coming in with my rubber top coat, and you can still see I've got a few creases. So I'll come in with the rubber top coat, and then before curing it, I'll just come back in with my silicone tool and press out those creases. And then because the top coat's there, it helps hold the decal in place. And then I'll just even out the top coat with my bottle brush again, going in both directions so everything's super smooth, and then pop that in for 60 seconds. And then when you take a look at the nail, you wouldn't know that there was any creases that were there before, because we've easily got rid of them. I really loved how these water decals looked with the gold metallic gel, and overall I really loved how this set turned out. So do let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Of course, if you did enjoy this design, please do give the video a thumbs up. Let me know in the comments below which one was your favorite, and don't forget to check out the Kiki London website for all the products I've used in today's video. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Thank you all so much for watching. Lots of love. Take care. Bye bye.